Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, and a good morning at you. It's July 21st. I know I always sound surprised by the date. A sure sign of advanced age. Let me start with some sports news. Hailing from Wisconsin, I'm obviously a Milwaukee Bucks fan, so I just want to say, whew, that was neat. I found that I have more difficulty enjoying sports now because my empathic nature always makes me feel sorry for the losers. And man, that can dampen, the delight you might take in a game. I mean, generally speaking, we only root for a certain team by virtue of accident of birth, geography, born someplace else. I would not be a Green Bay Packer or a Pittsburgh fan, or if I didn't live in Pittsburgh, would I be a Pittsburgh fan? I don't know. So I feel sorry for Chris Paul mostly. I just want to say, and for those of you who don't have a clue who Chris Paul is, it's okay. I'll move on. I'll just move on. I'm a little punch drunk today because the games. Damn, you don't know, because I did once lived in the Central Time Zone, but it is true, if you've lived all your life in the Eastern Time Zone, you don't realize that other Americans in other time zones get more sleep than you do. That is absolutely true. So in order to stay up and watch that game, I was, well past 11. Where it was being played, it was past 10. The lucky guys in the mountain states and the West Coast, were fully awake if they were watching it. But you just don't get any sleep. And then the thing is basketball by its nature is just, when it's at this level, is such I don't know, what is it? It's just so exciting. I mean, the lead's changing hands all the time. You can be down by 20 points and, come roaring back in 5 minutes. I don't know. It really is the kind of game where, you can hear, but my heart is racing, and it's hard to go to sleep after something like that. All right, I'll stop. Not quite. I'm still on the sports page. Let's stick with basketball for just a while, because one of the movies that is out right now is that remake of Space Jam, which was a movie, the first one that I watched a lot, because my son was of an age when he simply loved that film, Space Jam, starring Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny. But it's been remade starring LeBron James. And is Bugs still in it? I haven't seen it. The New York Times had the bright idea of looking at these basketball stars who have found themselves in movies. And they asked the question, they can play, but can they act? And the answer, generally speaking, is no. They can't. They go through a number of films, and the first one that they talk about is a film that some of you may have seen, although God knows I have not. And I suppose I could rent it just to see it. It sounds horrible. It's called The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. You seen that? I've heard of it. The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. And I'm sure Pittsburgh was just gaga over this. It was 1979, a few years before I moved here, because, movies in Pittsburgh didn't necessarily go together like they do now. But that starred Julius Erving, Dr. J, an extraordinary basketball player. And the Times critics say it was a goofy movie, and it showed that Dr. J is the coolest man alive. So they didn't really say that he was a good actor or a bad actor. They do say that probably the best great basketball player that held his own in a movie, and I was exactly hoping that they were going to say this, was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who 50 years ago helped bring the first NBA championship to the Milwaukee Bucks. This is right before he changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and was still Lou Alcindor. But anyone who's seen Airplane, and if you haven't, give yourself a treat. That cameo appearance by Jabbar playing a airline pilot is just wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, you need any more? They talk about Marcus Johnson and White Men Can't Jump. You might have not even realized he was in there. No, it says here, in the greatest basketball movie of all time. Well, yeah, Marcus Johnson makes a brief appearance. He, a 5-time All-Star, as a guy who was enraged after getting hustled out of money. And he in his one scene, he clears the court swinging a knife around in rage. And he gets high marks for this cameo appearance. The Times critics say it's so convincing that you would never know he became famous for basketball, not acting. That's Marcus Johnson. That movie's made in 92. Dennis Rodman, they say, is not a bad actor. And he's been in a few movies, I think. Kevin Durant, who's now heading our Olympic team, was in Thunderstruck. And they say he acted impressively in that. That movie's from about 8 years ago, because in his acting job, he had to play a guy who couldn't play. Sort of like like Freaky Friday with Jamie Lee Curtis, where she trades places with her daughter. He trades places with this kid, a clumsy high school basketball player who all of a sudden becomes amazing. And then he's like the clumsy high school basketball player. And so Durant, in order to play this, had to just screw up over and over and over and over again. And I suppose for him to do that on a basketball court must have been difficult. Michael Jordan, they pan in Space Jam, even though he has enough star power to light up anything, but his acting is wooden, and he needed to be saved by bugs. As for LeBron James, with the remake, they say, not much better than MJ, but maybe a little bit to give LeBron the edge in the Space Jam acting competition. Okay, that's it for basketball. Thank you very much. On to a story that Susan and I talked about yesterday, and that was the female athletes in beach volleyball, beach handball, track and field, and I suppose some other sports being essentially required to wear revealing, tennis is another one, to wear, things that show their legs but it's gotten higher. It's their legs and their butts. And a lot of women say this is ludicrous. I'm an athlete. I'm not a pole dancer. I'm not here so men can watch my buttocks jiggle. I'm here to win a game. And so the Norwegian beach handball team was considering a protest, and they did it yesterday, I guess, where they refuse to wear the bikini bottoms that their sport mandates. Never mind that the men who play the sport don't wear bikini bottoms, okay? They don't, but the women have to. And so the Norwegian players in their match yesterday, which is the bronze medal match in some tournament, not sure what, they wore reasonable, shorts. And every single woman on that team was fined by the governing body. And the New York Times has a story on it today, and it's just astonishing how this whole story reads without really saying what clearly is going on here, which is that this is so more men will watch, because men aren't going to watch women play anything. Great female athletes are not going to be watched. But if you make them essentially play practically nude, then the men are going to watch. And for a sport to mandate that women play half naked while men do not have to, that is so obvious. And I am going to bet you that is going to come to an end. I don't know how in these times this can still be allowed. I mean, just recently, the Badminton World Federation decreed that women who want to play at the elite level must wear short skirts. And they were quite open that this was in an effort to revive interest in the sport. That's not interest in the sport. And after the protest of the Norwegian team yesterday, the spokeswoman for the International Handball Federation said this: I really do not know the reason for the rules that women have to wear bikini bottoms. I really do not know. This is their spokeswoman. I really do not know the reason for the rules. We are looking into it internally. Oh, dear God. How do people have jobs like this that require them to lie through their teeth with everyone knowing they're lying through their teeth, and to do it with a straight face? We really don't know why. Why was that somewhere we decided that women, why would that have been, to wear bikini bottoms? So there you have it. Depressing. Anyway. And just one other sports story, and this one sort of pulls us a little into the political realm too. I'm sure you saw it. Keep wanting to say New England because I'm looking at a picture of Tom Brady. Tampa Bay, incredible. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the current holder of the Lombardi Trophy for being the best in football, showed up as a team to the White House yesterday for, the usual fall derall. And it was amazing how many teams did not do this in the last 4 years. Just amazing. Or if they did, it was just an eviscerated crew because they didn't want to be associated with Donald Trump. And they all showed up. Brady hadn't shown up for one of these things at the White House for 8 years. He didn't do Trump, and he didn't do Obama in the last 4. I suppose at some point when you win so many of these, you get sick of going. I don't know. But Brady showed up, and man, he stuck this. I love it. He stuck it to Donald Trump. And Trump, of course, will have seen this, and it will have made him crazy. It's exactly the kind of ridicule and exclusion and people laughing at him that pretty much drives his cruelty, certainly his insecurity, which then drives his bully boy cruelty. So watch out. He can't be in too good a mood after this. And Brady was saying when he was standing there with the president and his teammates, he said this, if you didn't hear it, I think about 40% of the people still don't think we won. And Biden, standing off to the side, says under his breath, I understand that. And Brady picks up on it to drive it home and says, you understand that, Mr. President? And Biden smiles and says, I understand that. And then Brady didn't leave it there. He tells a little anecdote, apocryphal, I'm sure, that at one point in a game in Chicago, he actually forgot what down it was. He said it was first time in his entire career he made a mistake like that. And he said, and all of a sudden, everybody's calling me Sleepy Tom. Why would they do that? And that got another big laugh because, as you know, Donald Trump called the current president Sleepy Joe. So, I've never rooted for Tom Brady, but Tom, well done. Well done. Well done. Okay. Bree writes, in the new movie, Space Jam, LeBron makes fun of this athlete versus actor situation. So you've seen it already. Actor versus athlete situation. So the film is self-reflective in this sense. Reflexive? I think reflective, right? Oh, who the hell cares, Cullen? LeBron goes to a pitch meeting where he specifically turns down being in a movie because he's an athlete and not an actor. But then before he can get out of the studio lot, he gets digitized against his will, and he has to play a basketball game to get out. And then Bree writes, no more spoilers. That is a bit of a spoiler, but not much. It does reference all the major Warner Brothers properties from Harry Potter to The Matrix. I fast forwarded a lot, but saw enough of it to know what was going on. And it wasn't much other than some good special effects. It's an easy money maker for the studio. Well, yeah, that's what they like. Easy money makers. You know what I started watching? That isn't my usual cup of tea, but I couldn't help but notice that it just keeps getting all these Emmy nominations, slews of them. And so I checked out The Mandalorian. Now, this is a George Lucas film, Star Wars prequel kind of thing. Now, I know the first three Star Wars pretty damn well. The other three, not so much, but I know those three. And so this is a prequel, I guess, right, to those. And I watched the first, I thought, all right, I'll watch it. And I really was taken by the first episode. I found it, it's comfortable because I thought Star Wars was a great movie. Star Wars 1 and 2. I loved them. And I don't know that I would have watched them, but that I was the mother of a child. And being a mother of a child, you end up seeing things that you would not have seen, and hearing things, music that you would not have heard, and often being surprised by the fact that you enjoy it. It's great family entertainment, I think. And I really enjoyed it. So I watched, I think, 2 more episodes last night. I thought the second one dragged a little, but there's something comfortable about it. And again, like Bree suggests with the new Space Jam, there's a lot of sort of nods and winks to past movies, and in between the nail biting terror and battles, there's often humor. So whatever, I have to tell you, I'm enjoying that, and I'll probably binge watch it till I can't binge no more. Okay, that's enough. Do you have a sense that I'm avoiding topics? Oh dear. Okay, let me do this because I've been wanting to share this with you. I think someone just said it to me the other day. I was just out walking my dog, despite the fact that breathing could be harmful to me because I have asthma. Same thing today, by the way. And it is it's the climate crisis. It is smoke from Western fires. And now, why did I go off on that tangent? Oh, so when I'm walking my dog, I bumped into somebody who I know, and we were talking. Hadn't seen him for a while. We're talking, and then, invariably, somebody says something like, "So how have you been during all?" And it's not just talking pandemic. You're talking what's going on in our country and the world, and he said something that I've said before, and that I'm sure you've said before. And it's born of our incredulity, of our absolute brow knitting astonishment and confusion about how so many people who are our countrymen and women, who might be very nice people in many ways, have chosen to throw reality out the window and to instead sign on with not just the latest big lie that Trump won the election, but all the other lies that this group traffics in. We've all read, I'm sure, and listened to many conversations about what is happening here. And I'm always grousing about it. All comes back to human nature, which apparently is pretty terrifying stuff. It's almost like primitive, and it is. It's primitive. Again, I fall back on my sense that I first arrived at about 20 years ago, whenever cell phones came out. Has that been 20 years? Maybe not. I said, we think we're so smart, but we're just cavemen with smartphones now. And it turns out cavemen with smartphones are dangerous. So Michelle Goldberg, who's quickly becoming my favorite columnist, wrote a piece. I guess it appeared yesterday. I don't know. And she helped me understand what it is, and in the process scared the hell out of me. And I have to pass it on to you because I think it's the best explanation. And most of what she relies on is the writing of the woman who's best known for helping to make sense of the Holocaust, of German fascism, of how in the hell could a civilized nation, a civilized people, known for great literature and art and architecture and music, and how could they become monsters, evil beyond comprehension? And I hate to tell you, because a lot of us have said, and General Milley, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, watching from the Oval Office, Trump and his minions, goes back to the 30s in Germany, Reichstag, he says. So, yes, what is happening in our country, this thing that so many of us are looking at with disbelief, can be explained if we look just 70 years, 80 years back, maybe 90, to what happened in Germany. And she starts out, Goldberg, saying that she was not going to read any of these damn books that were coming out about the last year of the Trump administration. She said, I lived it. I don't need to go there. That's the way I feel. I'm not reading it. I'll read the excerpts that come out and, let somebody else cull through it and give me the highlights. But then she picked one up. And the one she picked up is by a Wall Street Journal reporter, Michael Bender, that is titled, Frankly, We Did Win This Election. The subtitle is The Inside Story of How Trump Lost. And I'm going to ask any callers to be patient while I just get through this Goldberg thing. And she was taken, as she's reading the book, by Bender's sort of embedding himself with Trump loyalists who go from rally to rally. There are, he says, like deadheads. Or she called them like, I can't find it in the article. I can't. But yeah, like the authoritarian deadheads. They followed Trump from rally to rally. And they become known among the group. They're the frontline Joes. And he talks, the reporter, Bender, talks to each of them, talks to them collectively. And he was struck by the sort of general personality profile that they embodied. And it was this. They were lonely. I'll quote Bender. Many were recently retired and had time on their hands and little to tie them to home. A handful never had children. Others were estranged from their families. And throwing themselves into Trump's movement, they found not only a community, but a sense of purpose. Now, I think that is very important. And even before COVID, we were becoming more isolated from each other. And you got to know that by simply, looking at somebody, two people sitting together, seemingly together, but they're both looking at their cell phones. We're alone together. And then the pandemic even exacerbated it more. But Hannah Arendt made clear in her books, trying to make sense of what happened in Germany, that lonely people are drawn to totalitarian ideologies. I quote her from her book, The Origins of Totalitarianism. The chief characteristic of this man, she used, is not brutality. It's not backwardness, but isolation and lack of normal social relationships. Normal social relationships. Think of Donald Trump. He has no friends. He has no normal social relationships. And a lot of his followers don't either. And that's why Goldberg points out that a socially healthy country and society would never have elected Donald Trump in the first place. And we know that social disconnection is on the rise. And polls show us that people who show the most disconnection from everything disproportionately support Donald Trump. One recent survey said that this is frightening. 17% of Americans said they did not have a single person in what is called a core social network. In other words, they didn't have a single friend. And it's people like these socially disconnected people, who overwhelmingly went to Trump because he gave them community. He reflected their feelings, their anger, and he gave them purpose. And then she pointed two more things. A cruel paradox of COVID is that the social distancing required to control it nurtured the very disconnection and pathologies that are now prolonging it. Trump's voters are overwhelmingly the people who won't get vaccinated. So these people will follow him over the cliff and into the grave because for once they feel powerful. They feel a sense of belonging. They're connected. And it's why, if you look at rural America, I think there are so many people who really wouldn't be for Trump, but everybody around them is. Everybody around them is, and it would take a very strong character to withstand that. And so you join and you become part of it. And one last quote from Arendt. Because Goldberg says, man, was she prescient. She described people shaken loose from any definite place in the world, these sort of disconnected, angry Trump kind people, as two seemingly disparate things. They're self-centered and they're self-destructive. Now, those would seemingly be, now, wait a minute, if you're self-centered, you're all about you. So if you're all about you, why would you embrace ideologies that could get you killed, that will hurt you? From Republican policies to refusing to get a vaccine to a million other things. And this is another thing that so many of us looking at our fellow Americans can't get through our heads. How can they be, first of all, selfish, not willing to chip in and do the job, everybody on deck, but they're killing themselves. And this is one last quote from Hannah Arendt, looking at Germany. Self-centeredness went hand in hand with a decisive weakening of the instinct for self-preservation. Wow. If the caller's still there, go ahead, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
What I was calling about is kind of what you were talking about. And you've talked about this before too. And it's, besides not liking other nationalities and all that, people look different than them. It's the Deep South has been pissed off since the beginning of losing the Civil War and never forgot it. And it's just rising back up. You could just see it. And they probably in the South, I don't go there that much. It's always been there, that, and it's just getting worse and worse. And it's what it is. And these people that have this illusion that they're going to change that, I got a news for them. They're never going to change that. People are going to have to die off or something, because those people are racist, and you will not change them. I had them in my family, and then I just know they're just like that. They don't like Arabs. They don't like just any different nationality than them. Italians. It's horrible how it is. But I wanted to ask you, have you been told that shot that we had, is it only good for 6 months?
No.
I heard.
No, you're hearing, see, there again, they don't know, first of all. But I've seen everything from a few years to maybe we'll need a booster. But this is, again, there is so much misinformation out there. It's mind-blowing.
I heard at least a year. So that was way back when I got it. But I didn't think that was right, because I'm reading that now, and it's like, oh, my gosh, you people, you never end.
I think it would behoove everybody, even those vaccinated, to be more careful. I mean, I had stopped wearing a mask and been going to restaurants and stuff, and I'm back wearing a mask. And I am going to a restaurant in a few days, but we're going to be outside, because I just, there's too many people. Right. Although I have to say, if you're in Allegheny County is seeing less of a surge of the Delta variant here than most other places. And we've got really impressive vaccination numbers. I actually have them here. Hang on. I saw this and thought, whoa, I mean, this can, make you feel a bit safer. This is information from Deborah Bogan, who is the Allegheny County Health Department Director. And this is from a briefing from the end of June. So you got to figure these numbers are probably better now. She said at the end of June, more than half of eligible teenagers have had at least one shot. That 62% of adults aged 20 to 34 have had at least one shot. That 71% of those between 35 and 49, and it keeps going up, and 79% of people 50 to 64, and close to 100% of adults over 65. Now, granted, that's one shot, but that shows that your chances here, your risks of getting it here are lower right now because you are surrounded by more people who are not self-centered and self-destructive. So that's the good news.
Good.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And just Bob said regarding the fish that saved Pittsburgh, he says banners for WTAE TV, the reason I came to Pittsburgh, were part of the sets in the fish that saved Pittsburgh. I don't recall any of the real life TV anchors, TAE anchors. But if you were working at Channel 4 when the movie was shot at the Civic Arena in '79, I'm sure that you would have made it into being in the movie in a real life cameo, which happens, you know. And Bob points out that, yeah, Sally Wiggin and Ken Rice, two anchors that at the time were at Channel 4, both had little appearances in Striking Distance, another great movie. Jeez. Oh my. Okay. Now, speaking of sort of the lies that are promulgated in this Republican universe, I came upon. No, I can't find it. Okay. Oh, here it is. We take you to Texas. I know, I'm sorry, but we take you to Texas where this kind of delusion and self-centered self-destruction is running rampant in their government, which is wholly owned by the Republican Party. The Senate in Texas has just passed a measure that has to do with how children in Texas will be educated. And what they've done is take away certain subjects that had been mandated before, that in order to have a good grounding in American history, you had to know certain things. Well, they've decided, no, you don't. So these things will all now, they won't be like forbidden, but they will not be required. Teaching about Martin Luther King Jr.'s career and I Have a Dream speech. The accomplishments of labor leader Cesar Chavez. The writings of women suffragist leaders like Susan B. Anthony. And the totality of Native American history. It's hard to conceive of this. Republican Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick praised the legislation for rejecting, quote, philosophies that espouse that one race or sex is better than another. Susan B. Anthony was not saying women were better than men. Susan B. Anthony was saying we are being taught and our society is now constructed to tell women that they are inferior to men. So all of the things that these guys think they're protecting are, of course, the ability to keep things. White men in power. And they're just bold about it. Look at what they targeted. Martin Luther King, black man. Cesar Chavez, Hispanic. Susan B. Anthony, woman. And Native American history. You know, if I were living in that hellhole state, I would not want my children educated there. I wouldn't want them in that environment. And I would get the hell out of Dodge. I read a piece by Richard Parker the other day called "Texas Should Be a Warning to All Democrats." And essentially says that the Democratic Party there is dead. Remember all that stuff? Oh, the Democrats, it's turning, it's purple, it's turning. No. It has become more solidly run by Republicans. And so here's the nightmare of Texas. Pretty soon, unlicensed Texans will openly carry loaded firearms into grocery stores, gas stations, airports. Women will effectively be unable to get a legal abortion, and school children will not be learning the unvarnished story about American history. And this author says that the Democrats are to blame, that they screwed up. It's because they never fought hard enough and still are not. Democrats are so outnumbered, so stripped of any power in state government. They hold mayoralties in some of the major cities. But the state government keeps telling them they can't, those Democratic mayors can't do what they want to do. So there you have the Texas Republicans rolling back voting rights, passing measures that require teachers to tell both sides, get this, both sides of the story of racism. Where did I read that another thing they can't do is say that the Ku Klux Klan was morally offensive? And here's the thing. The author says most people in Texas don't like this stuff. Republicans in Texas don't like a lot of this stuff. But the Republicans in power don't care. They serve, like the Republicans in the United States Congress, a very narrow group. And they feel they have such control. And this is why they make it harder for people to vote so they can keep that control. And the author says, why would the Texas Republicans cross nearly a third of their own voters? It's because there's no alternative, because the Democrats are so weak. Says a weak party allows the other party to quit worrying about general elections. Republicans have better organization, more volunteers, more money. And the entire American system of politics, as you know, runs on money. And the reason Democrats in Texas are so broken down is that donors won't give them any money because all they do is lose. Governor Abbott, by the way, has his eyes set on the White House. He's running for another term as governor in 22, and thus far has no Democratic opposition. One last thing. He is zealous in his cruelty. He cavalierly cut off federal unemployment benefits to 1 million of his state's residents. Then he stripped the licenses of daycare centers that cared for undocumented immigrants' children. Texas should be a warning to us all. Caller, are you there? Hello.
You mean a mean George Bush?
Yeah, not a kinder and gentler. Yeah.
Hey, what you were talking about earlier about the personality traits of these Trumpers who are basically, they're lonely, they're isolated, this and that. I was listening to NPR a few months ago, and they had a woman on. Maybe it was the same person who wrote what you're reading. I don't know. And they thought when you have somebody in your family or a close friend, the last thing you want to do is isolate them. She was encouraging conversation and not debate. Just that if you push really hard back, you're going to lose them forever if you haven't already. And for somebody like me, that's very hard to do. But I think there's a lot of truth to the fact that these people probably just feel alone and they're very fearful. And I know how it's going to take a lot of patience on our part, but we always are the ones who are extending the hand, reaching out. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm not a good person to try to convert people, because I get so frustrated.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Me too. I'm not the right person to know how to. I just get so filled with rage, and I know. I mean, I do know that doesn't change anything. It might, in fact, stiffen the others' feelings that they are right. So, yeah, as much as I guess any of us can work on it, I had a very pleasant exchange last night with a guy on my street who has banners all over his, he has a banner hanging over his front door that's Trump banners. Right now he's got a banner for the Pittsburgh police. He has signs for the mayor, for Tony Marino, who's essentially, a Trumper. This guy is full on Trump. And I happened to bump into him walking the dog again last night. And we had a very nice exchange. We were talking about my dog and his cat. And, we laughed, we traded a few stories. And then I went on my way and I thought, see, that's a human being. And we just found common ground where we could talk. And it was pleasant, and it made me feel good. I don't know that changes a damn thing. I am pretty sure he knows who I am. So he probably thinks of me as Satan, and, I look askance at him. But there we were, just being people together, and it felt good. It felt good. I don't know.
Okay, so the good thing about what you just said there is, if, things really go to hell, and people really are taking up arms, can somebody like that really say, okay, make the decision, okay, I will shoot you, You know, like
I
if
don't know.
there's another civil war. I mean, and that's probably why that was an important conversation. You know, I mean, as silly as it was, he goes, well, maybe, you know, you both realize you're not monsters. It's just like you just don't understand each other's thinking.
That's right.
Because,
That's right.
You know, that back to, you know, because if you get in an argument, you just push back. And I have to say, like when it comes to religion, for example, nothing turned me more away from religion than somebody who's a Christian zealot. They're the ones who push me away. I mean, and maybe we do the same thing when we tell them they're stupid and they're killing them, our world and this and that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
I don't know.
The other thing, wasn't Brady a Trumper?
No, I don't know that he ever was. No, I'm not sure. I don't have a clue. He didn't go to any of the, you know, I don't know.
Oh, he didn't?
I know.
I thought he was a big Republican. Okay, because they always show him.
I'm not so sure about that. I don't know.
Okay, well, that's.
I can't say one way or the other. The owner of the Patriots, Kraft, was a Trumper.
Okay.
So I just don't know. I can't pretend I do. I have a friend who just adores Tom Brady, who really pushes back. The one time I said that Brady was a Trumper, he went nuts and said he is not. So I don't know. This is all just that. None of that is gospel. It's all just, you know, hearsay and anecdote. Hey, thank you for the call.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thanks. Bye. Thank you. Bye. I just want to say that I cannot stomach, as you know, Jeff Bezos. And after seeing what was he, I guess he can do whatever he wants, obviously. But did he look like the total geek of the century in that stupid cowboy hat he was wearing when he came? What was that about? Space cowboy? What was that about? Boy, did he look silly. I'm just saying it annoyed me. Jeff Bezos is annoying enough. Then he puts on a cowboy hat and I and then he said this, and understandably there was pushback. How tone deaf can you be? He said after his triumphal, you know, by the way, that cabin they were in when they were, you know, in zero gravity and floating around, that their little capsule was so small that they couldn't really float around. I mean, in Branson's, they were like zoom and really had a ton of space and having fun and doing cartwheels and whatever. These guys were just sort of like bumping into each other. So that didn't look as cool. Although what is cool is the rocket taking them up and then just going back home and landing itself. That is so friggin' cool. But that's something SpaceX, Musk, the other gazillionaire, did. Anyway, so Bezos says, I want to thank every Amazon employee and every Amazon customer because you guys paid for all of this. Okay? Now, I just want to tell you right there, as you know, I try mightily not to buy or in any way deal with Amazon. It's almost impossible because they're a monopoly pretty much. But I go out of my way not to pay Jeff Bezos. And for him to say that of his employees who work in a dystopian, nightmarish in his warehouse facilities. And by the way, speaking of that, I very happily said how David won one in Churchill that these people that were wanting to put up an Amazon facility in where the former Westinghouse park was, right off of the Parkway East. They were going for, you know, tens of millions of Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars, my dollars, your dollars, as, you know, an incentive. They were going for a grant to destroy Churchill. and make Jeff Bezos richer. And so many in that community are up in arms fighting it. And that was they withdrew their proposal for the grant, which I, happily reported back and said it was a, David wins over Goliath moment. But here's the reality. They're not stopping. They're just not going for those tax dollars. And this thing is moving along. And it appears that the elected people, the borough council, and then the county executive, Rich Fitzgerald, and all the others are thinking this is just one great, wondrous thing. And this thing is going to happen. 600 semi-trailer trucks a day clogging up. If you regularly drive the Parkway East, heading between the city and, let's say, Monroeville, and if you live in that lovely little town, Churchill, you better get the hell out too. I can't imagine how anyone thinks it's a good idea to put a facility like that, which belongs in an industrial park setting, not a bucolic suburban setting. Anyway, I didn't want to mislead you about that. Everything I'm reading says that thing is because, hey, Jeff Bezos gets what he wants. Simple as that. The rich guys get what they want. Simple as that. So that's all I got for today. If you've got asthma, respiratory difficulties, they say young children shouldn't play out. We've still got lousy air out there. Okay? There are apps that can help you keep track of that if you're somebody who should. When I was walking the dog last night, talking to the Trump guy, I was breathing, in, and I'm thinking, hey, I'm dying out here. I'm dying. I'm shaving years off my life. What you gonna do? Okay, we live in dystopian times. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.